so many people entered America across the southern border under Biden that there was a massive backlog of asylum claims that overwhelmed the immigration courts. So Trump has obviously seized upon this as yet another example why he's got to be allowed to speed up the roundup and deportation of people in the country. He says illegally. Well, we're not sure of his legal status, but he's what you might call undocumented in terms of he didn't have a visa to stay in the country.
One of the big headlines, though, dominating the news in US politics today is Donald Trump blaming Joe Biden's open border policy for the attack in Boulder, Colorado, that left 8 injured on Sunday. Steve Redfern, the police chief of Boulder, gave this update shortly after the attack took place.
At that time, Boulder dispatch received several calls to the county courthouse located at 1325 Pearl Street here in Boulder. The initial callers indicated that there was a man with a weapon and that people were being set on fire. The initial response by our officers, we were on scene very quickly. When we arrived, we encountered multiple victims that were injured with injuries consistent with burns and other injuries.
Well, that was the police chief of Boulder. And we understand today that the suspect, Mohammed Soliman, targeted a group demonstrating for the release of hostages held in Gaza by Hamas, that he was an immigrant who had he overstayed his welcome, David? Give us some more detail on this.
Right. So this has given rise to a post from President Trump accusing Biden's ridiculous open border policy, in quotes, of hurting our country so badly. And of course, Trump has picked up on the fact that this is an Egyptian national who came on a tourist visa in 2022, which was for 6 months, and he overstayed and he never left. But what he did do is that he filed for asylum in 2023 and was given, in late 2022, and he was given permission to work while his asylum case was being processed. However, that approval to work had apparently expired, and we're just not sure of his asylum status. However, so it's a little bit of a complicated picture, but the bottom line is that under the Biden administration, he was allowed to stay despite the fact he overstayed on a tourist visa. Now, I guess when you file an asylum claim, it's got to be processed, and that we think was still being processed. It takes forever because there's so many asylum claims, as you recall. So many people entered America across the southern border under Biden that there was a massive backlog of asylum claims that overwhelmed the immigration courts. So Trump has obviously seized upon this as yet another example why he's got to be allowed to speed up the roundup and deportation of people in the country. He says illegally. Well, we're not sure of his legal status, but he's what you might call undocumented in terms of he didn't have a visa to stay in the country. So it's that whole debate about migration once again. And I'm just looking through some of the comments by Republican members of Congress. Here's one from a Texas congressman, Brandon Gill. He's quite often on Fox News. Biden allowed Islamic terrorist Mohammed Soliman into the country under a visa program. He overstayed his visa, so Biden awarded him with a work permit. He then overstayed his work permit before brutally attacking American Jews. Uncontrolled mass migration is suicidal, says Brandon Gill. And those are the sentiments of Trump, many Trump voters, of course, and certainly Republicans in Congress.
Yeah, and I actually wonder whether visa overstays are going to be, whether the focus will move on to that a little bit. There's obviously the illegal border crossings garner a huge amount of focus. It is the aim of Donald Trump. Well, he's effectively cut everything off to that point. But visa overstays are something different, and that is what Mohammed Solomon had done. The court papers, so he's been charged with a federal hate crime. We've seen court documents today. After his arrest, he told investigators that he wanted to kill all Zionist people and wish they were all dead. Documents said he threw 2 Molotov cocktails at marchers, but had brought at least 14 other incendiary devices to the event. And this attack had been a year in the planning. All right, let's move on to a reporter who has, met the wrong end of Pete Hegseth. This is a pro-Donald Trump reporter. She claims she was fired because she criticised the Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth over his attempts to restrict media access at the Pentagon. Tell us a bit more about her. This is Gabrielle Cuccia, former chief Pentagon correspondent for One American News, which is a Trump-friendly outlet. So what is Pete Hegseth's problem?
Yes, she's quite a well-known face in the right-wing cable TV news. She wrote on Substack about her concerns that Pete Hegseth was restricting media access at the Pentagon, and it's absolutely true. He's not done one press conference since he became Defense Secretary. There's only been one press briefing in the Pentagon briefing room, and that was before what became known as Signalgate, when Pete Hegseth shared details of upcoming strikes on Yemen, didn't he, with a group that included the editor of The Atlantic, which is a liberal magazine that Trump, no friend of Trump's. So she wrote about her dismay, calling herself a MAGA girl, saying, as a MAGA girl myself, I cannot stand when we take something super serious and legitimate, such as the Russia hoax, and conflate everything and anything that's an inconvenient truth and throw in the towel and say it's just a Russia hoax. So I don't know where this one's going. Sorry, that was another comment of hers. And then she's been saying, well, I think fundamentally, we should have much better standards than the other side, than the liberal side that criticize us, that Hegseth should be much more transparent. But it wasn't actually Hegseth who directly fired her. It was her employers at One American News, which does present a rather unvarnished picture of the Trump administration. And it's quite a surprise because this network has been pretty loyally covering the Trump administration, and it was a surprise that she would speak out so strongly against Pete Hegseth, who really has been rather accident prone. She was saying, I think the thing that did it was to say, look, come on, the Hegseth and the Pentagon are trying to suggest there's a lot of leakers and that journalists are nosing around the Pentagon, because there was an edict issued to restrict journalists to a certain couple of corridors and a couple of rooms to stop them wandering around the Pentagon. And she said it's simply not true that journalists are freely roaming around. The real source of leaks has been Hegseth himself.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's return to Elon Musk and Donald Trump and ask whether this is a feud or not, in that Donald Trump has blocked Jared Isaacman from becoming head of NASA, partly due to his ties to Musk. It was Musk's recommendation, I think, wasn't he, David?
Yeah, so this is a guy who's very well known to Elon Musk and SpaceX, because he was on the first all-civilian space flight in 2021. That was a SpaceX flight. He carried out the first private citizen spacewalk on a SpaceX flight, and he was recommended for the new head of NASA by Elon Musk. He's a billionaire, a self-made billionaire from a couple of companies, including his digital payments company, and he was very well regarded in the space world, apparently. But just a couple of days after Elon Musk has himself departed, Trump has announced that he wants someone who's fully aligned with America First to lead NASA. And what's maybe really going on behind the scenes, partly he doesn't have the defender in Elon Musk, who by the way put up a very supportive post on X for him as this was happening, but too late. What's really going on is that Trump's really wants to get a mission to Mars under his presidency, which of course is fantastically difficult and expensive, whereas the goal of NASA at the moment, and everything has been geared towards going back to the moon. That was what they've been gearing up for years. And so it would mean a massive shift in focus and resources for NASA. But that seems to be what Trump wants, and what he wants to drive through is to shift into this desire to plant a flag on Mars. And who knows, maybe annex it along with Switzerland. No, along with Canada. Sorry,
and
not
Greenland.
Switzerland.
David, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. David Charter is Assistant US Editor at The Times.